Hey YouTube, D&D here. Oh, you're telling me Ride 4 came out a few months ago? Oh neat, what did the reviews say? A 69 on Metacritic? Nice. Well, I guess you know what that means. I'm D&D, and today I'll be actually reviewing Ride 4. Hey Milestone, it's me again, D&D. I hope you're ready for some constructive criticism. Ride 4 has actually been a pretty polarizing experience, because my first thought was, holy cow, this is the Dark Souls of motorcycle gaming. But then the mad lads in Italy actually updated the game after the fact, substantially, and they completely changed the physics, and a few things under the hood, which affected all of us who had gotten used to the previous version. So, really quick, before I actually start my Ride 4 review, let's talk about the first three games. Ride 1, the original. This game still has the best menus. Look at those beautiful European Alps. And this one in particular had some interesting AI where they would actually ride in groups. Still on rails, obviously, but not as blatantly obvious as the later version. Also it had Buell, which has been sorely missed. And hey, did you hear? They're coming back from the dead. Now we move on to Ride 2, my longtime favorite. It may run kinda weird on modern PCs, but what did it nail? The physics. My main gripe with Ride 2 was the on-rails AI. In other words, if you were in first place, or like let's say you helped crash out second place, then the third place guy would automatically magically gain 5 seconds on his pace and take that slot of the second place guy. And this behavior kind of just ruins the experience because the AI are pretty lifeless. There's nothing exciting about them, you know, they just have their slot and that's it. You remember Need for Speed Underground? Well, they had rubber bending AI, which sucked in a different way, but I would say it was more entertaining than this kind of AI. So Ride 3 was interesting because, yeah, the graphics were better, but after a few patches, the handling was completely nerfed, and it was really vague. Like, it didn't feel fun at all, whatsoever. There's no feedback. The track selection blew. There was like 7 tracks total through the whole career, it felt like. It was so boring by the end. I wanted to blow my brains out. It made up for that because of the motorcycle selection. It was ridiculous how many motorcycles were in that game. But the problem is the physics are so boring that you can't really tell a difference between any of them. And, yet again, the on-rails AI is exactly the same as it was in Ride 2. There wasn't really any changes. And on top of that, I made a mistake in my review saying that it was a stable game. Because apparently, if you had an AMD processor, well, you were shit out of luck. And the worst part about Ride 3 was that you were actually paywalled behind winning a championship because of the H2 versus the H2R. In this one particular drag race, even if you cranked all the settings down, everything was on easy, you could not win this drag race and you could not beat the championship. And that was because the H2R was just simply faster, so if you didn't own the DLC, you didn't win. I literally used a trainer to freeze the H2R so I could win this race. And on top of that, check this out. Look at that. How are you supposed to win against that? So I had to resort to my split screen tactics that I often do to my poor friend Spencer and, you know, block the shit out of him. Ride 4. Here's my too long didn't read review. Is it good? Yeah, it's really good. In fact, the most important thing, the physics are the best they've ever been. I even commend whoever did it because I was actually shocked when I first played it. I was like, oh, these bikes feel heavy. I had all these complaints. The game wasn't easy. And then after sinking 2 hours into it, basically my alcoholism was cured and replaced with Ride 4. Most gearheads probably already own this game, but if you're just a regular person, should you buy this game? That's kind of a loaded question. And let me explain why. Alright, I'm gonna get the biggest and most prominent problem I have with Ride 4 out of the way. It has nothing to do with the game actually, and all about the sales tactics that are being used to sell this game. If you're a console gamer, go for it. Go fucking for it. Go get this game. If you want this game, if you want a motorcycle game, this is the one. Get the special edition. If you look on the website, oh, interesting. You can only buy it on the console? If you're a PC gamer, you go to the website, I want to buy a season pass. Looks like there isn't even an option to select it. I wonder why. Now, let's go into why this is a huge fucking issue, and I'm still pretty pissed about it, and I will not change my Steam review, thank you very much. Ride 4 on the console, the standard version is $49.99. This is in USD. The special edition that includes the season pass is $79.99. Now, let's move on to the PC. The standard edition on the PC is also $49.99, but the special edition does not exist, and here's why. let's do the DLC math. All the DLCs that have been released, except for those first two, have been $4.99. So if we go on that, which they will be $4.99, trust me, that means that there are 9 left according to the website, which means at $4.99 each, they will cost in a total of $44.91. And that's just for the DLC not released. If you go on Steam, the DLC that has been released will cost $40.91. You add that up, that's $85.82 without tax. Now get this, that's not including the game. So, if you add the cost of Ride 4 to the total, you pay $135.81 versus the console players that only have to pay $79.99. And this is not including tax. Let's even be generous and add that stupid Steam bundle, the 10% discount, and say $13.58. So even with it, you pay $122.23, which basically means you either pay around $126 or $139 without. And that is roughly a 69% increase from the console version. Do you feel robbed? Because I do. And I know this is just some dumb businessman decision. This has nothing to do with developers, and they're just getting away with it. And this is probably going to be a standard with gaming in the future. I'm really pissed about this. You know, I love Ride 4, but I don't think I'm gonna buy any of the DLC just because this is some bullshit. Give us the fucking season pass. I don't want to pay 69% more just because I play on a PC. I'm sure hearing this right now like completely deters you from getting this game. Okay, time to finally move on to the Ride 4 review. The biggest critique I have for this game was that nobody playtested it, and if they did, they didn't listen, because this game had a horrible launch, and I literally have a folder of footage called bugs because I keep finding them every day I play this game. So I'm gonna hit the brakes first and start with just the basic review of the game and the features.
Are you ready?
Despite the complete lack of playtesting on the release build, the myriad of bugs, the head-scratching game design decisions, Ride 4 is the best motorcycle riding simulator I have ever played. And judging by the fact that my playtime already well exceeds all the previous games, 4 is the best ride ever. It comes down to the physics. While being unforgiving and unfriendly for the first few hours, once you get the hang of it and are popping gears at night down the back of a racetrack in Canada, you forget about everything else. Motorcycle games live and die by their physics, and this game has the best. I feel like I'm actually pushing the front tire, using the track's camber, and covering the rear brake to reduce wheelie on the way out, just like real life. The team that worked on the physics needs a beer and a raise. They've made the closest thing I've felt to reality yet, and deserve some Budweisers. Not the hate from the people who only played it for 5 minutes and rage quit. Ride 4 uses the rear of the bike more than ever. It often shakes loose and causes tank slappers that require you to change your pants and your parts. Turn-in needs to happen earlier, and often coasting the bike using the engine braking and being careful with the throttle on the way out is the way to go. Pushing the bike on the edge of the tire going downhill is a lot sketchier than going uphill, which I'm not even sure how they managed to simulate, but you'll know it when you hit the bottom of the Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch versus going up the Dunlop curve at Suzuka. You can even save a bike standing up when you're blowing a corner realistically, if you manage not to smash into the wall. Gone is that sense of understeer and is replaced with a feeling of actually riding a motorcycle. I can even make mid-corner adjustments if I'm not too far leaned over and tighten or loosen the radius on the way out of the apex. Also, leaning your bike over while you're at full throttle spins the rear tire, which happens in real life, and you go into a deep lean angle and you feel that rear wheel kind of spin up in the RPMs. This actually happens in Ride 4. Pretty cool. Look at these amazing moments. This game was my drug for several weeks, until the update Apocalypse, which I'll admit shaved some of that magical difficulty of riding on the edge off, and gave us too much corner grip and front wheel weight. But if you turn the assists off, that feeling is still there. You can tell people really liked the physics because of how much we complained when they were changed, but I'll go into that in a bit. For now, let's talk about launch. You could probably tell from those reviews that a little bit of gatekeeping was going on, and that involved the very first thing you had to do in the game, which was get regional licenses, and that involved these time trials that would immediately fail you if you cut the track at all. Now imagine taking a game that was already not very easy and making it incredibly hard, and then forcing new players to go through these absurdly hard challenges before they can even play the rest of the game. It makes no sense. Back to the review. Ride 4's riding style customization is very limited. There are only 3 styles to choose from, and then the only new feature it added was how many braking fingers the rider uses. The thing is, it's not the ride style editor, which was in Ride 1 and 2, but not 3, and now, yet again, not 4. Here's a direct comparison of all 3 styles. Also, in kind of a bizarre decision, there is no separate Supermoto slot to change the Supermoto riding style. It's just based on one of the 3 that they gave you already, so you kind of have to guess. It's a really weird and lazy decision just to not add something that was a feature in the previous game. Also, if Supermoto is your thing, avoid Ride 4. It's just slapped on. Okay, moving on to the motorcycles. Ride 4 doesn't have very many choices, but they are very detailed, like for what you have. I will say I do have a soft spot for all the endurance racing bikes in this game, and they look fucking great. But, you know, there's a lot of generation of motorcycle that's missing here. Like there could be so many more cafe racers or early 90s sport bikes. But it is a downside that there aren't very many to choose from. And don't expect much variety from the DLC, and I'll explain why in a bit. Here's something that Milestone actually nailed. The track selection is incredible. Every single track is good. There's so much variety, and I actually wish that the career mode took advantage of the variety because you feel like you're on the same track over and over, even though there's so many to choose from. That brings me to my next point about how, you know, not that this probably actually happened, but I feel listened to. Just please bring me Suzuka. Endurance racing, ugh. I will give you the rest of my blown 1993 CBR 1000F engine parts for it. Suzuka, oh my god, I just want Suzuka. Give it to me. That's right, you heard that in my old review of Ride 3. Guess what? They actually added Suzuka to Ride 4, my favorite track of all time, and it's the best one in the game. Here's me recreating moments from one of my favorite YouTube videos, the 2016 Suzuka 8-hour highlights, top 10 trial. Okay, that's all the highlights that I recreated. Let's get back to the review. So, there's another reason why I feel listened to. If the doctor wears ins, so does everyone else. Jokes aside, it's kind of depressing. Look, I understand there could be some licensing issues, but why not apply the customization that you have with the motorcycles via color and livery to the gear as well? I don't mean pick a color for your leathers to be so it's just one bright red strawberry, but like a detailed customization of leathers, gloves, boots, and helmets, like painting the hard parts or adding little designs to the sleeves, etc. Give the players the ability to customize it all in-game, and we'll do the hard work for you. If you're gonna make my virtual guy wear 10-year-old ride designs, just give me the ability to put a livery on it so I can make my Brett King Signet Q.
Sad face.
They added the ability to customize helmets and gear and add liveries and all this stuff and a sticker editor. There's so much amazing stuff in the customization department. And I feel kind of listened to because that's what I requested in my previous video. And they added it. Look, there's my really crappy rendition of the Brett King Signa Q. And a few people actually downloaded it. Also, thanks to those who downloaded my KTM race suit. Some people far more talented than I have put up some really amazing helmet and motorcycle liveries. And they're really easy, unlike Ride 3, to put on and use. As far as bike and gear customization goes, they've added a bunch of new brands, which is a nice change of pace. And also, they've streamlined the motorcycle customization so you don't have to update tiny little parts that barely do anything. Moving on to graphics. The graphics have been improved substantially, to nobody's surprise. The inclusion of the day and night cycle is really nice, especially for endurance racing, and sunsets look really nice. The best part for me are the actual gauge clusters on the motorcycles look a lot better, and they really kind of pop out at you. Check this one out at night, how it kind of glows. It's nice. And this game runs pretty well on the old GTX cards because it's not like anyone's getting a new RTX anytime soon. The sound is also better. Some bikes are way better sounding than others. I don't know if you noticed that in the Suzuka comparison, but that's, sometimes bike sounds good, sometimes they don't. But overall, it is an improvement from Ride 3. So gameplay-wise, what makes Ride 4 stand out? They added tire wear, tire choice, fuel consumption, and endurance racing, which they had in previous games, but it wasn't as developed as it is now. It only takes one brief look at the Steam reviews to see what everyone's talking about, and that's the final new feature, which is the new Anna AI. So this is the part of the review where all my thoughts kind of collide about the weird game design decisions they made, the lack of playtesting, and the AI, as well as the updates that influenced the physics and the AI as we knew them. So I'm going to try to cover everything as fast as I can. Endurance racing is a really cool feature, but why can't we turn on rewind? Someone on Steam mentioned that it is the way the game accesses memory and that they can't use rewind in those longer race modes. But there's races in the career that are longer than an average 40-minute endurance race and rewind is available. It makes no sense. So on launch, if the endurance race started with rainy weather, you had rain tires available to you. If it did not, you did not have rain tires through the whole race, but the AI did. So imagine being 30 minutes into an endurance race and you pit and there's no rain tires to speak of. Who playtested this? Also, the lights didn't work. So we have this amazing new mode, but the lights don't work at night. There's no rain tires if it starts to rain, so you're just running around on slicks hoping for the best, and that actually ruined a race for me. And the game was launched like this. It just blew my mind. Did nobody play an endurance race into the nighttime and see that the headlights didn't work? Despite all this, endurance racing in Ride 4 is my favorite mode because it truly is challenging to keep your bike on the track for 40 minutes, and it's fun using the power modes. But these issues, they really hold back the game. That leads me to my first piece of constructive criticism. Give players the ability to customize their experience at all times. If we want to put rain tires on when it's a nice sunny day, let us do it. It's such a simple fix. There was a race in the career that started wet but then dried up super fast, and my wet tires burned up really quick and I couldn't win the race, simply because it wouldn't let me start on slick tires. If we want to have fuel consumption during regular races, let us do it. That adds a cool aspect. I want to use the power modes on all the race modes. That's such a cool new feature. Why not let us use fuel consumption during a single race? So we could run in an aggressive map, and maybe one of the risks we take is running out of fuel before the race is finished, but we get faster lap times. It's time to talk about the AI. So I have mixed feelings about the AI. They can now be much more spontaneous and exciting. Sometimes they'll show you a wheel and pass you on the inside. Other times, they'll make room for you when you dive up on the inside of them, like right here. For new players, the AI carry too much corner speed, but are slow on the straightaways. Even on the lowest skill level, on tracks that don't have a lot of straightaways, they're incredibly fast and really hard to beat. And this is a problem even at the lowest difficulty setting of 20%. They also made a gameplay decision where you're not the wrecking ball anymore. You actually have to avoid the AI, and colliding with them usually causes a crash. The caveat of that ability, though, is that when they run into you, you get smoked. And for some reason, the AI have a lot of trouble when you brake early. They'll just stay on their racing line and smash you to bits. I didn't mind it so much because I had the rewind feature. But remember which mode doesn't have that? Oh, that's right, endurance racing. So guess what happens at the end of an endurance race when you're 30 minutes in and an AI decides to ass ram you? Well, you're not getting those 40 minutes of your life back. So you see how these weird gameplay decisions add up. Something else happened though because of the lack of playtesting. Some of the tracks the AI could not figure out, like Macau. All the AI would crash out in that one corner and there was no competition. So I was thinking a playtester probably would have said something like, hey, the AI can't drive this track. They literally, tried to machine learn it, but it's not happening right now. They sort of fixed this issue in an update, but it had an unforeseen consequence. But first we're going to talk about the bugs, and then we'll talk about that. Alright, it's lightning round. Here we go! Bug 1. Weird random ghost riders that would disappear and then stay in the same spot. Now patched. The livery editor is full of strange bugs like painting the entire motorcycle or not understanding where layers go on the bikes. Missing exhausts like on this Ducati. Now patched. No rain slick during endurance races when it started to rain. Now patched. Exhaust flames that come out of the bottom of the bike, not from where the exhaust is. The R7 gauge trying to disappear into the earth. The Suzuki GSX-R 600's front wheel trying to go through the ground. And the Augusta's weird lean angle here. Whatever the hell this is. The strange limits on tracksuits where you couldn't put liveries or stickers. Lights on bikes at night are from a fixed point, and when you lean the bike over, they don't actually change like they do in real life. Notice the difference between the picture of what the bike's supposed to look like and what it actually looks like? Another missing exhaust. I think this is now patched. One of Suzuka's corners had a weird bug, now patched. You want to modify the suspension on this Triumph? Well, you can't. Ride 4 lacks a tuck animation, it just automatically tucks. And to test this, I went on a straight holding tuck versus not holding tuck. You can't tell a difference in what the guy's doing, but you can tell a difference in the miles per hour. Why they didn't add a proper upright animation when you're not hitting the button? I don't know. Here's a bug. I haven't tested it in a while, I'm sure it's still in there. On this little two-stroke Honda, notice the shaders are messed up on the paint. Now it's time for some criticism. Number 1, no action cam in the regular mode. It's in replay, which is really awesome, but it's not in the regular game. Why can't I use it in the regular game? You can't change the rims on a race bike, which is weird because you've been able to do that, I'm pretty sure, since Ride 1. Nor can you swap out the exhaust on a race bike, which is weird because you can do that in Ride 2. And you could use the stock models in the game just like the regular non-race bike. Why can't we unlock the company leathers once we beat the rider challenges? How come there are no flag bearers in Ride 4? I'm pretty sure there were in Superbike 99, which is also a Milestone game. There is still no knee puck wear when you lean the bike over. Paywalled DLC that you can't do the event because you don't have the bike. The new bike leveling system is dumb. Just let us change our livery whenever we want. Remember what I mentioned earlier about DLC? Well, let me ask you, what's the difference between this bike that is provided in the game and this DLC bike? Oh, and how about this one? Point of view. You're in a time trial race. You go over the crest of this hill. Which way are you supposed to go? There's A or B. Alright, do you have your answer? The correct answer is C. Why not add some cones so we know where to go? Let's talk about the 1.007 update to Ride 4. As they've updated the game and fixed a lot of these bugs, they unfortunately made a huge change to the physics as I mentioned earlier in the review. As you can see here, these are two direct comparisons of the game before the update and the game after the update. To the left we have the release build with the better physics. To the right we have the modern build with all of the assists turned off. I noticed that I had to be a lot more careful on the release build because of the rear tire losing traction and all the wobbles that happened. On the right side, the only thing I really had to worry about was controlling my wheelies out of the corner and the tire spin, which just mostly involved me dragging my rear brake wherever I went. turning all of the assists off is the closest thing you're going to get to the original physics. It is truly a shame that they didn't listen to us and at least try to make realistic mode closer to what it was on release. Ride 4 relies on 3 different live assists: engine braking, traction control, and anti-wheelie. These were all overhauled in the update, as well as, in my opinion, actual traction on the front and the back of the bike that aren't controlled by any of the difficulty settings, which is why I think it's impossible for them to go backwards and give us the realistic mode that we had on launch. They have these 3 difficulty settings. Why not just change the other 2 difficulty settings and leave realistic alone? It is beyond me why they made this decision. I'd say I do really miss the physics from the release build. You saw me show all the cool moments earlier with all the high-speed wobbles and whatnot. Those don't really happen anymore. Somebody new on the Steam forums complains every day about the physics being changed. The other effect of the update was that the AI were slowed down to finish tracks that they couldn't do. Unfortunately, this means now that the AI is incredibly easy to beat, even on max difficulty for an experienced player like myself. Here you can see a comparison of the modern physics. One with all riding assists on, another with all riding assists on one, and the final one with no riding assists. Before I wrap this review up, I wanted to talk about one more feature, my favorite part of the game: goddamn photo camera. It's the best I've ever seen in any game. I mean, look at these photos. Holy cow, you have so many choices on how to take pictures. Since I'm a visual person, this is awesome, and they look really good, almost lifelike. So, kudos to whoever designed that. So where does that leave us with Ride 4? Lots of mixed feelings, that's for sure. Honestly, right now, with the DLC tactics and the rolled back physics, I cannot recommend this game. And that pains me, because I really, really like this game. But you never know, since Milestone seems to be actively working on their games now, who knows, maybe there'll be a chance in the future where they update it, and they get it right. I'll be waiting patiently, because I'm pretty optimistic about this, because deep down, there's a really good game underneath here, and I think giving the PC players a season pass would mitigate a lot of my frustration. But at the end of the day, it'll be up to you, viewer, and I hope that this detailed and exhaustive review actually helps you make a decision, or at least provides some entertainment. And with that, I'm D&D, and keep the rubber side down.